Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. This is your host, David Krayden, and I'm live from your nation's capital, Ottawa. We're going to be watching the speech from the throne, but you're going to be hearing my take on what's actually happening today, because this is way beyond a speech from the throne. This is way beyond a royal visit. This is setting Canada up for globalism and a takeover. This is about the UNI Party. I'll be back to explain.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
We need political change. But we also need to resolve to resist. Yes, please subscribe, like the station. We're beating the YouTube algorithm thanks to your help. So what's going on today? Yes, it's the speech from the throne. But this is about a false unity. This is about a uniparty. This is about King Charles representing globalism and our sudden need to be part of Europe and our opposition to the United States. Listen to what Pierre Poilievre said at his caucus speech.
On a permanent end to tariffs with the U.S., and we will work with the government to help make that happen. I've already told the Prime Minister that we are happy to cooperate any way we can to bring about an end to this unnecessary dispute and restore our not just our sovereignty, but also tariff-free access to the most successful international trading arrangement in the world. And we can't help but note that the Prime Minister promised during the election that he would put his elbows up and apply dollar-for-dollar tariffs that would raise tens of billions of dollars. Now, let's be clear. He said that it would raise $20 billion this year alone, and he published that in a platform released after he had quietly eliminated most of those tariffs. So how is he going to make up the money? And why did he put his elbows down when he said they were up? Look, despite the Prime Minister's doublespeak, we will work, as I said, to help him try and get a trade deal to put an end to the tariffs. But we also need to focus on making our own economy more independent and self-reliant.
So clearly, Pierre Poilievre is saying, we're going to work with the government. This is being co-opted, folks. I don't know if Pierre Poilievre even realizes what's going on here. This is why we have a royal visit going on. This is why we have King Charles delivering the speech from the throne. This is about bringing together all of the parties in the House of Commons. Obviously, the Bloc isn't going to be a part of this, but at least the official opposition is a part of this. And this is about coming together and subsuming, eradicating the differences. The Conservative Party must be working towards the elimination of the Carney government at the first available opportunity. Mark Carney is an existential threat to Canada. Mark Carney wants to see the US dollar devalued, the Canadian dollar devalued. He has a globalist agenda. He's not talking about that right now. He's talking like there's no differences between the parties. We're all unified. This is the UNI Party demonstrated today. This is what this is all about. And I tell you, it's frightening because people are not seeing this. They're saying, isn't it great? We've got a royal visit. We've got King Charles in town to read the speech from the throne. We're all in this together. And the Conservative Party is being co-opted as part of Team Canada. And this is why, as I said yesterday, the talking points are the same. Mark Carney's speech to his caucus was virtually the same as Pierre Poilievre's speech to his caucus. They're both talking about affordability. They both talk about safe streets. They both talk about security. And they're both in this together right now. And this is very frightening because what we're headed towards is a one-party state where we all agree. Well, democracy is not about not having any differences, not having any differences in opinion. Democracy allows differences in opinion. Now, we're just waiting for the members of parliament to arrive, and they should be there seated shortly. But I want to show you this. This is Mark Carney yesterday, of course, suggesting he's just one of the boys.
A day of firsts on Parliament Hill, this veteran Quebec Liberal MP ushered into the role of Speaker of the House.
I would remind members that we are at the beginning of a mandate in the selfish hope that you will afford me a little grace period.
Francis Scarpaleggia will be the new Commons referee, voted in by fellow MPs of all parties to trade his own political affiliation and votes in the House for the responsibility of maintaining its decorum. This was also the Prime Minister's first day in the chamber.
I have much to learn from the members of this great House. I will make mistakes. I have no doubt that you will call them out for good reason.
Just 3 seats shy of a majority, the Liberals have now lost one more potential vote as they set out to pass an ambitious agenda.
So how can you afford that, given you're so close to a majority?
Well, I don't know what to say to that. We're going to have a Liberal Speaker. The House elects a Speaker.
A first for the Conservatives is that their leader is excluded from the Commons. Andrew Scheer sitting in for Pierre Poilievre after he lost the seat last month and had
Any time fall into error, I pray that the fault may be imputed to me and not to the House of Commons, whose servant I am, and who, through me, the better to enable them to discharge their duty to their king and country, humbly claim all their undoubted rights and privileges, especially that they may have freedom of speech in their debates, access to your Majesty's person at all seasonable times, and that their proceedings may receive from your Majesty the most favorable construction. Qu'il plaise à votre Majesté.
So we're going to get
La Chambre des communes m'a élu président.
The House of Commons.
we're going to have the speech from the throne momentarily. This is the Speaker of the House opening the session.
If, in executing my duties, make a mistake, I'm asking that the fault must be sent to me and not to the Commons, for which I'm the servant, and trying to do the best. Their duties to the king of their country asks the recognition of their rights and privileges, notably freedom of speech and their debates, and also the access of the person of His Majesty in any convenient time, and asking that His Majesty interpret most favorably their deliberations.
Mr. Speaker, I am commanded by His Majesty the King to declare to you that he freely confides in the duty and attachment of the House of Commons to His Majesty's person and government, and not doubting that their proceedings will be conducted with wisdom, temper, and prudence, he grants and upon all occasions will recognize and allow their constitutional privileges. I am commanded also to assure you that the Commons shall have ready access to His Majesty upon all seasonable occasions, and that their proceedings, as well as your words and actions, will constantly receive from him the most favorable construction. Monsieur le Président, Sa Majesté, le
His
roi me
Majesty,
charge de vous
the
dire
King,
que, ayant pleine confiance
makes
dans
me
le loyal
say to
destin,
say, he's got a full confidence in the
et l'attachement de la
loyalty
Chambre des communes
and the
envers la
attachment of
personne
the
So you can see what this event is all about today. Combined with the anti-Americanism, Donald Trump is the enemy. Suddenly, King Charles is our best friend. King Charles is a globalist. Remember that. He's not a unifier, he's a divider. I'm gonna start putting your comments up now.
Looking forward to make sure that the Commons will have all convenient free access to His Majesty, and that their deliberations and your acts and your words will always be interpreted on the most favorable way.
Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity, and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and
I don't
Anishinaabe
believe it.
people.
I don't believe he's doing
This
that.
land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed. This is my 20th visit to Canada, spread over the course of more than half a century, and my first as sovereign. As I've said before, every time I come to Canada, a little more of Canada seeps into my bloodstream, and from there, straight to my heart.
Oh boy.
I've always had the greatest admiration for Canada's unique identity, which is recognized across the world for bravery and sacrifice in defense of national values and for the diversity and kindness of Canadians. To the First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, you have welcomed my family and myself to your traditional lands with great warmth and hospitality, for which I am humbly grateful. This year, we mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day and VJ Day. On Juno Beach, at Dieppe, on the Somme, at Beaumont-Hamel, at Ypres, and on Vimy Ridge. At those places and many others, forever etched into our memories, Canadians fought and died alongside our closest allies. Aujourd'hui, je vois des élus venant
I
d'un
see
bout à l'autre
elected
du
members
Canada,
from one part of
de
Canada to the other,
Saint-Jean's
from St.
à
John's
Terre-Neuve et
to
Labrador,
Newfoundland and Labrador to
en
Victoria
Colombie-Britannique
in British Columbia
et d'Arviat
and Dariat
au Nunavut.
in Nunavut.
Je vois des
I
gardiens
see
des droits
some keepers of the rights and guaranteed
Charte
freedom
canadienne.
by the Canadian Charter.
En tant que roi,
As
je
king,
tiens à
I
vous remercier
want to
de
thank
vous
you
mettre au service
that you be
de
at the
vos
service
compatriotes
of your
d'un bout
compatriots
ou l'autre
from
de ce
one
grand et beau
end
pays.
to the other of this beautiful country.
You speak for your communities, representing an incredible richness of cultures, languages, and perspectives. We owe it to this generation and those who succeed us to think and act for the greater good of all. While the world faces unprecedented challenges, generating uncertainties across the continents with regards to peace and stability, economics and climate change, your communities have the skills and determination to bring a wealth of solutions. en encourageant la collaboration et en tenant des débats
encouraging the
respectueux
cooperation and
et
debates
constructifs,
that are constructive
vous
and
permettrez à
respectful.
ce gouvernement
You
d'agir de
permit this
façon
government to act
audacieuse et juste
with audacity
bien
and
des
fairness
Canadiens
for the
et
good
des
of
Canadiens.
Canadians.
It has been nearly 70 years since the sovereign first opened Parliament. In the time since, Canada has dramatically changed, repatriating its constitution, achieving full independence, and witnessing immense growth. Canada
This
has
is full
embraced its
independence?
British, French, and Indigenous roots and become a bold, ambitious, innovative country that is bilingual, truly multicultural, and committed to reconciliation. The Crown has for so long been a symbol of unity for Canada. It also represents stability and continuity from the past to the present. As it should, it stands proudly as a symbol of Canada today in all her richness and dynamism. When my dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957, the Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events: the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to protect.
So he's describing liberal Canada.
The system of open global trade that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for Canadians for decades, is changing. Canada's relationships with partners are also changing. Il nous faut confronter la réalité.
We must face reality.
Depuis la Deuxième Guerre
Since the
mondiale,
Second World
notre
War,
monde n'a
our
jamais été
world
aussi
has never
dangereux
been
et
as
instable.
dangerous and unstable
Le
as now.
Canada
Canada
fait face
is
à des
facing
défis qui,
some
dans nos
challenges
vies,
that
sont sans précédent.
are without precedent.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity, an opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians. The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. Simultanément,
Simultaneously, the government is reinforcing its relationships
Carney's
with
people
the
wrote this
commercial
speech.
partners
For anyone,
and
I see a query here from
trustful
Dark
allies.
Chaos.
Make sure that
It was
Canada
amended by
has
the
what this world
Buckingham
needs
Palace
and
people, but Carney's
defending
communications
key
people wrote the
values
speech.
that
This is
people
about
respect.
Carney's Canada
Canada
and co-opting
is
the
ready
the
to
opposition.
start a coalition of nations that will share these values, that believes in cooperation, international cooperation, and free trade of goods and of services and ideas. In this new world that evolves at the frenetic rhythm, Canada will show the road to follow. The demonstration will be made to when Canada will preside the summit of the G7.
The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone.
Yeah,
Many
Carney.
Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time
Just
home buyers,
sheer propaganda
delivering
delivered
savings
from the lips of a
up to
king.
$50,000. And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million. Le gouvernement assurera
The
la
government
pérennité
will
de
make sure
programmes
that we have
qui
programs
permettent déjà
that
aux
they
familles
already know that permits to families to save thousands of dollars a year. Notably, whether it's for the medication, insurance, and also the dental services of Canada that will be accessible to 8 million Canadians, permitting to save more than $800 per year in average.
The government's overarching goal, its core mission, is to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts with creating one Canadian economy out of 13. Internal barriers to trade and labor mobility cost Canada as much as $200 billion each year. The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labor mobility by Canada Day. Les premiers ministres de plusieurs provinces
of many
et
provinces
territoires
Thank you, Rob Hellfire.
already
Bless you. And share this broadcast with your
breaking
friends and
obstacles
family,
to
please. YouTube is
commerce.
getting on me right now,
government
big time.
will
Pushing down
create
everything.
before Canada Day, a real system of free trade across the country. It's efforts that are essential to permit for Canada to realize all its potential on an economic level, but that's not sufficient.
To build Canada strong, the government is working closely with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples to identify and catalyze projects of national significance. Projects that will connect Canada, that will deepen Canada's ties with the world, and that will create high-paying jobs for generations. Given the pace of change and the scale of opportunities, speed is of the essence. Through the creation of a new major federal project office, the time needed to approve a project will be reduced from 5 years to 2, all while upholding Canada's world-leading environmental standards and its constitutional obligations to indigenous peoples. The government will also strike cooperation agreements with every interested province and territory within 6 months to realize its goal of one project, one review. When Canadians come together, Canada builds things that last. Éliminer ces obstacles qui
To
freinent
eliminate
l'économie canadienne
these obstacles that are slowing down the economy of Canada will bring a new era of growth,
grâce à laquelle le
because
Canada
with
va non seulement
Canada
surmonter
will
les guerres
go
commerciales,
over the commercial
mais en
wars,
émerger
but
plus fort que
get
jamais.
stronger than ever.
Cela lui permettra
That will
de
permit
devenir
to become
une superpuissance
a superpower
en matière
as far
d'énergie
as
verte
the
et
green
conventionnelle,
energy and
de bâtir une
to build
stratégie
the
industrielle
industrial
rendra le
strategy that
Canada
will
plus
permit
compétitif à
that Canada be more
l'international,
competitive on the international
tout en
level
luttant
while
contre les changements
fighting
climatiques,
the climate change,
de bâtir des
to
centaines
build
And once again,
systems
they are
of,
copying
dont
the
les
Conservative
métiers
Party policy statements. This is incredible. They've got the king now repeating the Conservative policy statements that the Liberals have copied. This is all about one party state.
The government will undertake a series of measures to help double the rate of home building while creating an entirely new housing industry, using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. The government will introduce measures to deliver affordable homes by creating Build Canada homes. This mission-driven organization will act to accelerate the development of new affordable housing. It will invest in the growth of the prefabricated and modular housing industry, and it will provide significant financing to affordable home builders.
How many times has he talked about the housing industry?
Market work better, including by cutting municipal development charges in half for all multi-unit housing. The government will drive supply up to bring housing costs down.
And living in Soviet-style block housing.
To be truly strong, Canada must be secure. To that end, the government will introduce legislation to enhance security at Canada's borders. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies will have new tools to stop the flow of fentanyl and its precursors. The Canada Border Services Agency will be given new powers to examine goods destined for export to prevent the transport of illegal and stolen products, including cars.
This is a killer. The precursors are coming into Vancouver, and the Liberal government will do nothing about it because they're coming from China.
Building et réinvestissant
and
dans les forces armées
in
canadiennes.
the Canadian Armed Forces.
Il stimulera
He'll
l'industrie
stimulate
militaire
the
canadienne
military industry
en
of
prenant
Canada
part au
by
plan
taking part
Réarme
of
Europe
the
et
plan
contribuera
with
ainsi
Another stolen
continue
platform
des
from the
with some
Conservative
partners
Party.
that are
à
from
la
Europe
sécurité
to
transatlantique.
the transatlantic security,
Et il investira
and will
pour
invest
renforcer sa
to
présence
reinforce its
dans le
presence
nord,
in the north,
alors que cette
where
région,
this
qui
region
est partie
that's a
intégrante
part
de la
of
nation
the
canadienne,
Canadian nation
fait face
is
à de
facing
nouvelles menaces.
new threats.
The government will discharge its duty to protect Canadians and their sovereign rights from wherever challenges may come at home or abroad. To keep communities safe, the government will hire 1,000 more RCMP personnel. It will change firearms licensing and strengthen enforcement of yellow and red flag laws.
Take your guns away. Translation.
Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Through the deployment of scanners, drones, and helicopters, additional personnel, and canine teams, the government will stem the tide of illegal guns and drugs across the border. It will take these steps
the dogs are
while
going to find the
protecting
guns.
the rights of law-abiding gun owners and indigenous peoples' long-standing hunting traditions. The government will bring a renewed focus on car theft and home invasions by toughening the criminal code to make bail harder to get for repeat offenders charged with committing these crimes, along with human trafficking and drug smuggling. During this time of great change, Canadians are uniting behind what makes Canada unique. La langue française,
The French language
la culture québécoise
and the Quebec culture
sont au cœur de
are
l'identité
the heart
canadienne.
of the Canadian identity.
Elles définissent
They define
que les
the country
Canadiens,
that
les
Canadians
Canadiennes et moi
and
aimons
me
tant.
love so much.
Le Canada est
Canada
un pays
is a
où
country
l'on respecte
where
et
we
célèbre
respect and
les
celebrate
langues officielles
the official
et les
languages
langues
and
autochtones.
the indigenous languages.
Le gouvernement
The government
est déterminé à protéger
wants to protect
les institutions
the
qui
institutions
font rayonner
that
ces cultures
make
et
these
cette
cultures
identité
are shining
dans le
in
monde
this
entier,
identity in
comme
the entire world,
CBC, Radio
like
Canada.
CBC Radio-Canada,
Protéger ce
protect
qui nous donne
what
accès
gives us
à
access,
des aliments frais,
some fresh food
et de qualité,
and quality
les
food,
producteurs agricoles,
some
et
agricultural
protéger
producers,
la gestion
and
de
protect
l'offre.
the management of the offer.
Nature is core to Canada's identity. In 2022, Canada convened COP15 in Montreal, which concluded with 196 countries striking a historic agreement to protect 30% of their lands and 30% of waters by 2030. To this end, the government will protect more of Canada's nature than ever before through the creation of new national parks, national urban parks, marine protected areas, and other conservation initiatives. The government will always protect the rights and freedoms that the Charter guarantees for every Canadian. The government will be a reliable partner to Indigenous peoples, upholding its fundamental commitment to advancing reconciliation. Central to this commitment is the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity with Indigenous peoples. For that reason, the government will double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities to become owners of major projects. As Canada moves forward with nation-building projects, the government will always be firmly guided by the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. Canada's immigration system has long been a source of pride for Canadians and of dynamism for the economy.
Not at all.
The government is dedicated to rebuilding the trust of Canadians in immigration by restoring balance to the system. Le gouvernement instaurera une limite
bring a limit
sur le nombre de
on
travailleurs
the number
étrangers
of
temporaires
foreign
et
temporary
d'étudiants
workers
internationaux,
and international students,
établissant un
establishing
plafond
a
qui, à
ceiling
partir de
that will,
2027,
starting in
sera en
2027,
deçà de 5%
will be
de la
below
population
5%
canadienne.
of the Canadian population.
Simultanément,
Simultaneously,
il attirera
he
les
will
meilleurs talents
bring the
dans
best
le
talents
monde pour
in the
bâtir
world
l'économie.
to build the economy,
Et il fera
and
savoir aux
will
Canadiens
make it known
et
to
aux
Canadians
Canadiennes qui
that
travaillent
are
à
working
l'étranger que s'ils
in
songent à
foreign
revenir
countries,
au pays,
if they want to come
il
back
n'y a
to the
pas de
country,
moment
there's no moment better to do.
Dans toutes ces actions,
In all these
le
actions,
gouvernement
the government
sera guidé par
will be
une
guided
nouvelle discipline
by a
fiscale.
new fiscal
Dépenser
discipline.
moins
Spend
pour
less
que les Canadiens
so that
puissent
Canadians
investir
can
plus.
invest more.
Day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. Transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained. The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity. In parallel, the government will take a series of measures to catalyze new investment, to create better jobs and higher incomes for Canadians. The scale of the government's initiative will match the challenges of our times and the ambitions of Canadians.
Please don't do that.
Honourable Senators,
That's too good.
members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the backdrop of international affairs, no nation could live unto itself. It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. À vous,
To you
et à l'ensemble du peuple canadien,
and to the
mon épouse et
Canadian
moi-même
people, my wife and
adressons
myself,
nos
are
sincères
addressing
remerciements
our
pour
sincere
cet
thanks
accueil
for
des plus chaleureux.
that more welcome,
As
more
the anthem reminds
warm
us,
welcome.
the true north is indeed strong and free.
No, is that it, folks? What a crescendo. I know a lot of you had difficulty listening to that. But it's all about taking away our freedom. And I've got something to show you here because I know there's nothing else happening. I think, wait, he's not done yet.
Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds to carry out the services and expenditures authorized by Parliament. May you honor the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians. And may God bless and guide you in all your duties.
And that's that. There was a brief addendum at the end. I want to show you something. We've got a little time remaining. I want to show you what Andrew Scheer said a couple of days ago about how the government and the Conservatives are working together.
For the third time.
Let's have a look at that.
We have to wait and see what Mark Carney actually lands on, because so far he's been on both sides of a few key issues.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think, and I certainly didn't mean to imply rather that the opposition's job was not to oppose, but I think the message from Canadians, and you have acknowledged this in other press conferences, and so has Mr. Poilievre, the message from Canadians, I think, is in the face of a crisis, when there are places that we can work together, perhaps like this is the time, if any, to look and seek out those places. And my example of dental care was like, I can remember on multiple occasions your party vehemently saying it was a terrible thing and a terrible idea. And then the fact that it was in your platform as something you would keep for the people who still had it is difficult to reconcile.
Well, you know, you mentioned specifically working together on things that face our country as a crisis, and on that you're absolutely right. Our leader Pierre Poilievre has signaled that on strengthening Canada's position to deal with these unjustified and unfair tariffs from the United States that we want. We want the government to succeed in getting those tariffs lifted on behalf of Canadians. We believe that the best way to do that is to make Canada stronger, to make Canada a more attractive place to invest. If you've got American investors trying to do business in Canada, you're more likely to have more pressure put on the U.S. administration to lift those tariffs. And when you have a Liberal government that's cancelling major pipeline projects, imposing an industrial carbon tax on our steel and aluminum manufacturers, it's less likely that you're going to have that leverage. But by all means, if there are things that Mr. Carney believes that we can be helpful on to help advance his goal of removing those tariffs, we would take a look at those, obviously. But I do need to point out that Mark Carney has set the bar for himself very high. He has said that he's the man you hire in a crisis. He said that he can handle all these kinds of things and that he's got the solution. So we're heading into a time of the year where there's some troubling economic data. When Canadians' household debt is continuing to rise, we've got job losses in some key sectors. And these tariffs are still on. They have not come off. He has not got that deal yet. So while we want those tariffs to come off and we want to be helpful in doing what we can to ensure that happens, we are going to hold this government to account to actually get results. It's not enough to just announce your intentions and say things during a campaign. You actually have to deliver.
What do you think?
Okay, so that's pretty tepid. That's suggesting, well, we're just going to hold them to account. Well, of course they are. But they're working behind the scenes. Andrew Scheer describes how he's working very closely with the Liberal House Leader. And this is all about a singular objective. This is all about having the same policy. And the Conservatives think that if the Liberals keep copying Conservative policies and just implement enough of them, it's going to solve the national unity crisis. It's going to keep Alberta in Canada. And Andrew Scheer goes on to say that, yes, he supports the fact that they're going to have a referendum in Alberta. They have a right to do that. But the Federalist Conservatives should actively get involved in that and say that the solution is for the federal government to be a little more fair. So what you're seeing here, and I don't see a lot of people identifying what's going on, is that, first of all, Donald Trump was the enemy. Now it's the U.S. is sort of the enemy out there that's trying to stop Canada from being the great country it could be. Now we have closer ties than ever to Europe. Bring the king over to suggest we're all together. We're all in this thing together. We're all in this crisis together. Of course, the crisis that was created is entirely one of the Liberal Party's creation. This is a result of 10 years of bad economic policies. But the Liberals are now exploiting their own crisis by bringing Conservatives on board to say we have to stay united. We have to stay together to fight this crisis. And if we don't stay together, the country might fall apart. So they're using the leverage of potential Alberta independence and the continuing threat of American tariffs to enforce unity in a one-party state. We are seeing the uniparty here. We need to see the Conservative Party commit itself to getting rid of this Carney government, to bringing it down. You're not hearing that. You're not going to hear that. What you're hearing is that we have to work with the Carney government very closely to ensure it sort of gets through some of our policies. Who does that sound like? That's exactly how Jagmeet Singh justified his collaboration with the Trudeau government. Well, as long as they pass a few of our policies, we'll be satisfied. But wait for it. There's a lot more coming from Mark Carney. Sure, all he's talking about right now is affordable housing, safe streets, strong national defense, yes, and border security, which he has no intention of enforcing. The net zero policies are coming. The carbon tariff is coming. The home equity tax is coming. The Online Harms Act policy is coming. Taking away our free speech, that's on the agenda. That's not what he's talking about today. That's not what King Charles III is talking about. In fact, what did King Charles III talk about? Affordable housing about 5 different occasions in that speech. And yes, we're going to build up the military. At the same time, you're giving away billions of dollars to Ukraine. At the same time, we don't have any operational aircraft, tanks, or ships remaining. It's all a farce. Because Mark Carney wants to give away our military assets to Europe. Sure, if he spends more money, do you think Canada is going to benefit from that spending? No, Europe will benefit. Ukraine will benefit. That's where the money is going to end up. That's what Mark Carney is up to. This is a globalist agenda, a European tinged agenda. Yes, and China's in there too. Mark Carney likes to talk about, Canada strong. No, Canada's weak. We are on the precipice of a Great Depression in this country. And simply by building Soviet-style block housing, and you know who's going to benefit financially from that. It's not going to save anybody. It's just going to make the situation worse. And of course, Mark Carney knows that. That's all part of the plan. And what we're seeing today is just a demonstration of the UNI Party, globalism, and Mark Carney's dedication to getting rid of the opposition, to silencing the opposition, to ensuring he stays in power long enough to implement his radical agenda. And unfortunately, he apparently has co-opted the Conservatives to a large degree. I don't know how much, it's too early to say, but he has to some degree. I'll be talking about this more tomorrow. Thanks for watching today, folks. It's been a pleasure. I know it's hard to watch Mark Carney's talking points for 25 minutes, but this is how we fight for our freedom, by understanding what's going on around us. And this is a show. This is a demonstration. This is all about one-party state. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless this country. Godspeed to all of you. This has been David Krayden, live from Ottawa.